We are truly blessed, truly blessed. Merry Christmas. Turn to someone beside you and genuinely let that sink in. Merry Christmas, this day that we've waited for. Yeah. Merry Christmas. You know, the Christmas season, if we really think about it, is about many things. But in today's culture, especially in the Western culture, it's certainly about gifts, right? That's why I titled today's message, Unwrapping the Gift of Christmas. Because Christmas is truly about gifts, giving and receiving. Christmas is about the historical man, Jesus, and the gift he brought in demonstrating what our potential is as a spirit human being. And Christmas is about what we call the Christ. Hinduism calls it the Atman. Some traditions call it the inner spark or divine pattern of perfection. But Jesus demonstrated what it means to fully realize and actualize our potential as a spirit being, a spiritual being. We call that the Christ. And so we can look at Christmas as being about the gift and this man, the individual historical man, Jesus, who demonstrated our potential and told us that we could do the same thing and even greater. And so the blessing is to not get stuck worshiping the messenger, but to really take a hold of the message. And that's what we strive to do, is to really let that message in. And so today when we talk about gifts, you know, every gift has the capacity to impact our life. Every gift holds value. Some gifts are very practical and useful. For example, my parents gave me a set of new cookware. Now, it could have been a hint, but I needed it. And it's very practical. It's very useful. It'll make my life easier. Anybody receive a useful gift this Christmas? Yeah. Some gifts are very luxurious. They provide us with opportunity. These luxurious gifts are things that we receive that treat us to something that we may not ordinarily have the opportunity to have this or do this. An extravagant gift. Anybody blessed with an extravagant gift this year? Yeah. A shock, somebody said. So there's the practical, useful gifts. There's the extravagant gifts, and then there's those gifts that you just don't quite know about. Maybe they don't fit. But you know that sweater could be shredded to make a pretty wreath, or like this gift I received, Mr. T, throw some tea into your trousers, please. It's like a really interesting opportunity to have a little man float around in your teacup. It's an interesting gift. Mr. T and your tea, I don't know. And so there's those kind of gifts. And then there are the gifts that aren't about the object at all. Those gifts that have that note written on a piece of paper that you still have years later. Those gifts that were that inexpensive ring that could have come out of a Cracker Jack box or a bubblegum machine, but somebody gave it to you and said something that was so powerful that you cherished that ring. Or perhaps that piece of paper with that macaroni art stuck on it that your child gave you years gone by. And it's still, you have it somewhere, because it's not about the object, but it's about the value that it conveys. And so when we think about a gift, every gift truly has the power to impact our lives. And every gift conveys value. Now, some gifts, it's easily understandable, the value. The pots and pans that I received, I can immediately understand the value they bring. Mr. T, we'll get there perhaps. And some things take even a little longer maybe to unfold. Many years ago, I taught 4-year-old preschool. I taught it 1 year. I realized that was not my calling. but that particular year, I made it to Christmas time. the week of Christmas, and I got to experience, do we have any teachers, grade school teachers in here? Well, there's something, ministers experience a lot of this too. You walk in and there's these little gifts on your desk. It's great, it's exciting. Well, as a school teacher that year to 4-year-olds, throughout the last week before our holiday break, all these interesting little gifts showed up on my desk, and it was so sweet. The last day, as I got ready to go home, I began to pack them all in a little box, and there was a plastic cat, kind of like Mr. T. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with a plastic cat, but it was a sweet little girl who gave me this little cat, so I put all these cookies and gifts in a box and took them home. After I was home, I put the whole box under the tree, and Christmas Day, my brother was over, and he pulled the box out. He wanted to see what it was, and so he starts going through it. He pulls out the cat, and he says, "This is an interesting flashlight. Do you want it?" And I thought, flashlight? I thought it was just a plastic cat. Who knew? And he showed me, oh yeah, you just do this. Well, all of a sudden, that gift now had more value, more meaning, because it wasn't just a plastic cat. It was a really cool cat flashlight. But as I even went further and dug into the box, I found the card and the mother that had handwritten a gift attached to the cat. And it said, "May your light always shine brightly." Well, now it really had meaning. The value just began to increase and increase. Because you see, it went from being an object to something useful and interesting. And then it even went from being useful and interesting to holding spiritual value. That every time I looked at it, it reminded me of what she wrote. "May your light always shine brightly." Well, it's very much the same way with our lives. We come into this world and we look at each other sometimes and all we see is the object, the physical being. And as humans, sometimes we may identify and not understand that we're far more than this. We just know ourselves as this physical, mental being. But as we begin to evolve, we begin to understand that we're useful, we're interesting. But there's even more depth. And the more depth is when we begin to discover the spiritual value that we hold. That we are a light. We are the light. And to unwrap and to unpack the gift of Christmas, that's the great opportunity this year, is to realize that we are not just beings, we're not just objects, that you are a being of light, I am a being of light. And then our usefulness and our purpose becomes imbued with a spiritual value that just brings so much more than just being the plastic cat that you may have thought you were at some point in your life. And so on Christmas in particular, we really look at this gift, the gift of who we are, and the gift that the man Jesus brought in teaching us about our true identity. There's a scripture. Would you give me this slide, please? It says, "Christ is the visible image of the invisible God." It means it's like a pattern. It's the firstborn, or the image, the pattern of all creation. And this is the secret, that Christ lives in you, and this gives us the same hope to sharing in this amazing glory as well. And so what Jesus brought to us was a demonstration of our own potential, each and every one of us. Jesus embodied and demonstrated the divine being born and brought forth in human form as an indwelling presence. A light that shines through the darkness of human conditions and human conditioning and illuminates the spiritual truth of who we are. The Christ is the light and love of God. It's present in each of us. It is our true spiritual identity. It's the creative power of God seeking to express through us. It is therefore as eternal as God. The Christ, can't be born, for it's always existing. But what can be born is our awareness of this and how we can surrender and allow more of this true spiritual potential to shine through each and every one of us every day. And so that's the first step in the gift, as it is with any gift, is to be willing to accept the gift, to accept it, to receive it. And I hope that each of us today can accept and receive the gift that is the truth of who you are. Now, as with gifts, it's the cycle of giving and receiving. We like to receive gifts, and hopefully we enjoy giving and receiving both gifts. And when you begin to acknowledge, you look at another and see them, you are a being of light. That's how we actually receive our own gift. The more I can behold. You see, to behold is to be a holder of something in your awareness, in your capacity to see it. The more I behold you as a Christ light, you as a divine being, you as an expression of God, the more I behold that, I am a beholder of it in my own being. And so that's the way we receive it, is to behold it in each and every one that we encounter, is to, I see you as light, that this being is light. That's the first step, is to learn to behold it and thereby to receive it. And so the gift, as we receive it, this gift, which is the truth of who we are, is then meant to really stretch our imagination, to let it stretch your imagination. There's a great Christmas story about a church having a Christmas pageant. And the Sunday school teacher told the parents of all who had children, if you'd like for your child to be in the Christmas pageant, bring them early and let them dress up either as an angel, a sheep, a shepherd, or a wise man. So the night of their Christmas pageant, the children began to file in. There were angels, sheep, shepherd, and wise men. And then all of a sudden, a young father with two twins rushed in, and the teacher did a double take, looking at these little boys and how they were dressed. And the father said, these are wise men according to them, and I could not change their mind. And there they stood, dressed up as Batman and Spider-Man. And the young father said, I hope you can stretch your imagination and make it work. And then he runs off. That to stretch our imagination, that the truth of who we are is really meant to do that. Because if we can't imagine, every great creation started with an imagination. Every change, every transformation requires us to imagine something more. Years ago, I saw the acronym MORE as the Magnificent One revealing, expressing. The Magnificent One revealing and expressing in us, that's the more. It's not out of a sense of neediness, of not enoughness. It's out of a sense of I'm here just like a flower. I'm always expressing and releasing more of my potential. And so hopefully our imagination is stretching us and not stressing us. Anybody allow your imagination to stress you? I recently read that of all the things we worry about, of all the things we obsess about with our imagination, less than 8% typically ever even touch our life. But instead of allowing our imagination to stretch us and draw out our potential, we usually use our imagination and allow it to stress us. There's a scene that is in the book, Finding Neverland. A woman, Mrs. Biddle. Miss Biddle is walking down the street, and she's carrying a box that has holes in the top. And her neighbor stops her and says, Miss Biddle, what's in your box? And she said, a cat. And the neighbor said, why do you have a cat in that box? And Miss Biddle said, well, every night I keep dreaming that I have mice in my house. So I got a cat. And the neighbor said, well, Miss Biddle, you just said you're dreaming you have mice. They're not real. And she said, I know, the cat's not either. And I love that scene because you just got it, I'm glad. I love that scene because it reminds us how often do we equip ourselves to deal with things that we've just imagined and none of them ever happen. But, hopefully we can begin to realize that our imagination is meant to stretch us, not stress us. I want to show you a video about an airline company that used their imagination on Christmas to do something that would bless a lot of people. Will you show us this quick video?
'Twas a night before Christmas, and all across the land, the good folks at WestJet had a miracle planned. On the eve before flying, the guests were in their beds. Visions of traveling danced in their heads. While out on the runway, something secret had arrived. It was left in the lounge. 'Twas a Christmas surprise.
Christmas this year, Cohen? A choo-choo train? Ho, ho, ho! A classic! Do you like Thomas?
Yeah, Thomas.
What would Mommy and Daddy like for Christmas?
Big TV.
Yeah, big TV.
Ho, ho, ho! A big TV! You're looking fabulous!
Oh, I need to.
It's okay if you just want to stare at me as well. Ho, ho, ho!
What I need is new socks and underwear.
An Android tablet.
Is that William beside you? And Cameron?
Some Santa boots.
Duck, stuff, and store.
While the guests told their Christmas wishes to good old St. Nick, WestJetters took notes and got ready to shop quick. It was a great rush with the 2 flights in the air to get all those presents. Not a moment to spare.
Sleigh bells ring and there's children singing tonight. Lights are bright, I know it's a beautiful sight. Snowflakes fall in the world, it's snowy and white. And Santa's coming to town, he's coming tonight.
Okay, Thomas, let's get it.
Christmas cheer and celebrations all across the line. This time of year of expectations, waiting for the man.
Thanks for flying with us at WestJet. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of your flight.
Happy faces were all so merry and bright. Santa's coming to town, he's coming tonight.
But was everything ready? We all had to wait for the moment of truth at Carousel 8.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Where's the Hughes family?
The guests never expected what they'd asked of St. Nick would actually appear. It was all quite a trick. A WestJetter would say it was more than mere fun. Miracles do happen when we all work as one. We'll give Santa the last word on this most special night.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good flight. Ho, ho, ho!
Isn't that amazing? So would you have wound up with socks and underwear? Or something far more exciting, you know? It's a beautiful reminder of what can happen when we use our imagination, of people coming together to create things that people could have never imagined. Well, that's truly what we are here for. So this gift of Christmas is for us to receive, to really let it in. It's here to stretch our imagination And it's also here to use us. You know, there's a ritual that is about receiving the host of Christ. Well, it literally means that we are the host of the Holy Spirit. That if the Holy Spirit is to show up, it's going to show up through us and as us. Marianne Williamson wrote, "According to the mystical tradition, Christ is born into the world through each of us. As we open our hearts, Christ is born into the world again. As we choose to forgive, Christ is born into the world again. As we rise to the occasion, Christ is born into the world. As we make our hearts true conduits for love and our minds true conduits for higher thoughts, then absolutely a divine birth takes place. Who we are capable of being emerges into the world, and weaknesses of our former self begin to fade. Thus are the spiritual mysteries of the universe, the constant process of dying to who we used to be, to actualize our divine potential." That's what the gift is about, being that. A closing story before we get ready for one more short video. This is a true story about Queen Elizabeth. You may remember that Elizabeth was 25 years old when she was crowned the queen. Her father, King George, died early unexpectedly. The day before Elizabeth's coronation, she went to see her grandmother. And she said, "Grandmother, I'm afraid. Because after I become queen, how will I know when I'm supposed to be just plain Elizabeth? And how will I know when I'm supposed to be Queen Elizabeth?" And her grandmother said, "That is a decision and a choice that you will make every day. But the true purpose and gift of your life is when you come to discover they are one and the same." You see, that's the gift and the blessing of each of you. You are Judy the Christ. You are Rhoda the Christ. You are Steve the Christ. You are the Christ, each and every one of you. And I hope that you will make the decision and the choice to show up every day and to allow that gift to bless you and to share that gift. And so a final video from Unity, Born Blessed.
Like Jesus, we are born blessed. Regardless of race, sexual orientation, or anything you can possibly think of, each of us is born blessed. Equality, human rights, dignity, and the principle of never-ending growth towards the fulfillment of love's perfect idea are firmly fixed in all creation. And it is safe to stand with this truth. It is safe to bring it into our world in unapologetic ways. From the beginning, humanity has been searching for enlightenment, for spiritual perfection, for understanding of its relationship to the divine. Many cultures and religions have traditions that describe this relationship in terms of divine presence, or a spark of the divine within humanity. The essence of the Christmas narrative is incarnation, the very idea that God has come into the world in the form of a human being known to the world as Jesus Christ. This divine incarnation reminds us that, ultimately, our human nature is inherently divine. It reminds us that each of us has the potential of experiencing the mystery, the wonder, and the love of God by turning within. With this knowing, the quest to experience the divine becomes a quest of turning to the voice of truth, always living, moving, having its very being in, through, and as us.
Merry Christmas. You are that gift.